Since the end of last cycle, Metaverse tokens have blown up. They have been one of the biggest areas in crypto to explode. A lot of hype around that area, and a lot of people are speculating that it might be one of the biggest sectors within the crypto space that will outperform the rest of the market the next bull cycle. Now, if you've stuck around, you've seen on this channel I've covered a few Metaverse tokens, but they've been highly critical videos of tokens that I wouldn't necessarily recommend investing in. So in this video, what I wanted to talk about is how to pick a good GameFi or Metaverse token within the crypto space, some things you need to look for when you are determining which tokens you should invest in. And stick around to the end because I will give my top 3 Metaverse tokens going into next cycle, the ones that I am watching currently. Now, if you guys have seen my other videos, you know that there is lots and lots of crap in the Metaverse space. And that's because anytime there's an hyped area within crypto or anything really, whenever there's a hyped sector, what ends up happening is you get a lot of opportunists that try to come in and make a quick buck. And so they push out a project that is really half-assed, I'll say.
What the hell is even that?
You know, they barely put together. The final product isn't anything great, and it's not a well thought through product. And so what we want to do is sift through all of those junk products. We want to get the projects out of the way that are going to waste our time and take our money. And again, the points that I'm going to cover in this video will help you do that. So the first thing you want to look for within the Metaverse tokens is there a game? This might sound super simple, but there are so many tokens that launch before any game is even talked about. You might get a little snippet here, a little snippet there, of some clips of a game, but is there an actual game that you can play? Because you don't know if the token will survive and if things will do well if the token is launching before the game. And what we've seen time and time again is that they launch these tokens, the team dumps their share of the tokens, and they might continue on with the project, but if you invested in the beginning, you would be out tons of money because these tokens, you know, are just falling so fast because the team is seeking for funding. So again, the first thing we want to see is a game being built or near completion before we even think about investing. The second thing that you want to pay attention to is the tokenomics. So if the GameFi project you're interested in has tokens or land or purchasable items within the game, which all of them really are going to have, you want to make sure that the tokenomics or the allocation of the resources in the game are fair. You want to see that, you know, people are getting a good chunk of, the public rather is getting a good chunk of the token share, that they are the ones that there's a clear source of where things are going to go with the money that is funded to the team. You know, you want to see that money being cycled back to the team and used for development and things like that. We don't want to see the owners coming out and buying Lamborghinis right after the token launched or the land sale or whatever it is. That's, to me, is a negative sign. Like if they're taking all their money and they're buying themselves stuff with it, it shows you where their head's at. So again, you want to make sure you go to their site if they have one. You can go on CoinGecko a lot of times and find their site or click on the tokenomics there, and it'll take you to the white paper. Now, this takes me to the next point, which is point 3. Make sure that they have a clear roadmap. What you want to see in this roadmap is that there is a use case for the token, that if there's land purchases or NFT purchases for the game, that they have a clear plan for those items. Because if there isn't a clear value proposition, what you're going to see a lot of times is a hype in the beginning and then it dies off and there's no value that returns to the token. Another thing you need to see that kind of bounces off of this point is that you want to make sure that the game itself isn't going to rely solely on the token, right? If people are only playing the game to earn the token and they're not interested in the game itself or there's no other value proposition, what you're going to end up seeing is once the tokens deplete, or if the token value falls, people are going to stop playing the game. So when that happens, the project basically dies. So again, we need to see something else that brings people to the game other than money, right? We need to see another way that they can have fun playing the game, Whether there's a marketplace for NFT transactions, land transactions, whatever it is, those are self-sustaining things. But if the token is the sole reason people are playing the game, sort of like we saw with Axie Infinity, people were playing to earn the Axie tokens. As soon as those tokens started falling in price, a lot of people stopped playing the game. And eventually, every team is going to run out of tokens to give to the community to play their game, right? Because if we remember back to a few of the other projects we were looking at, they had a community or, an incentive token stash, basically, that they set aside. It's going to be a percentage of the tokens released. And once those are depleted, then there's no more tokens really to earn in the game. So we want to see the team thinking long term. We want to know that there's going to be a different opportunity for people to get value out of the game or just enjoy the game and want to play the game. So again, this all cycles back to the first point, which is to make sure that there is a game, guys. I cannot stress that point enough, and it sounds so simple. But literally, if you go through the Metaverse tokens that are listed now, 99% of them are not going to have games. Like 99% of them are still in their development phase, which is okay. It's okay to be in the development phase, but we don't want to invest in the token until we see the development happening. We want to know that there is going to be a product. Because again, the product is what this whole thing is about, right? The game is everything. Like if the game sucks and nobody plays, you're going to see the token fall off a cliff if it hasn't already. So it really comes back to the game itself being built. Now, outside of those three things, you can do some research into the team, find out who the team is, obviously, and determine the hype factor around it. This is something that can be applied to really any token. If there is a lot of hype around a specific token and you just don't see the value, like let's say you see a lot of influencers promoting a token on a GameFi project, or this can again be applied to really any project. If you see them all hyping it up, but then you don't really see the value behind it, don't trick yourself into buying that token just because an influencer is talking about it. Make them prove to you the value behind it. Now, does this mean you're going to be the first investor? No, probably not. But here's the thing. In crypto, 99% of the time, being first isn't necessarily a good thing, because by the time it hits the public sale, the people who are able to get good value out of tokens have already taken that opportunity. So unless you were whitelisted or something else, you usually don't want to be the first person to buy it on the open market. You might see a spike in the beginning and think to yourself, oh man, I should have bought it. But 99% of the time, those levels, those price levels of those tokens are not held. The influencers that are shilling the project end up selling because 90% of the time they end up getting in early. So they're up on their money before it even hits the public sale. And then once it does, they've made their fortune on it because they hyped it up online and everything else. People bought in and then they dumped their tokens. This is what we talked about in my last videos. Now, again, this is all stuff that could be applied really across the board in the crypto space. It's not necessarily just Metaverse or gaming crypto tokens. But again, when it comes to the crypto gaming tokens itself, you want to see the project, right? You want to see, what does the game look like? Are people going to enjoy this game? Are they going to stick with the game, right? If they go and they buy a bunch of cars and houses with the money that they got from the token, and then they have nothing left to develop the game, the project's dead. And we're in a bear market right now. So we're seeing now the side effects of that. You see a lot of projects dying off that were hyped big time last cycle that now ran out of money because they spent it all on silly things and now can't develop the actual game. So all the holders are stuck in limbo. And again, the most dangerous ones are usually the ones that are hyped up by influencers. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen the CoffeeZilla Jake Paul thing. Now that was more of an NFT project, but again, they took the money. They had this whole insider thing going on. If you didn't watch the video, I'll link it down below. It's definitely worth a watch. But it shows you guys the sort of insider stuff that happens with a lot of these influencer tokens. What I would like to see, and my idea of the perfect token, is a project where the team grew organically, the game grew organically. They weren't paying influencers to shill their tokens or their NFTs or whatever it is, and that they are continually building even in this bear market. That to me shows dedication. That shows that they really want to build this game. So again, those are some things that you want to look for when you're determining what tokens to invest in, especially in the Metaverse space. Now, 3 projects that I am watching right now currently And the key word here is watching, because guys, the development time of a good game can take years. So remember that. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of the tokens that were hyped up last cycle, is that they were hyped up and people bought the tokens and they skyrocketed, but there was no game. The development time takes way longer than a few months. And so the teams that were able to pump out a game in a few months, the game is usually crap. It's nothing good or fun to play. And it's purely just based on money. And so, again, those ones have, for the most part, died off at this point. And those are the ones that we want to avoid going into next cycle. So, again, think about the development time. But this is why I think next cycle, there's really going to be, it's going to be prime time for the Metaverse tokens, because I think the teams that stick with it and produce good games, again, that year cycle is coming up. So you're going to start to see a lot of those games roll out. Now, before I get into my top three, I know I just said getting into it, but before I get into that, something else to note is the chain that the game is on. Now, I know Ethereum is the one chain that everyone looks to, but the fact of the matter is, I don't think Metaverse tokens can survive reliably on Ethereum. And that's not because Ethereum itself is bad, but it's because it's too expensive. If you guys remember last cycle, when everything was getting hyped up, gas fees were absolutely ridiculous. So to do any transaction would cost you hundreds of dollars sometimes. Now, if you're playing a game where you have to do transactions all the time, that's way too costly to play. Nobody's going to play that game because they can't afford to play the game. So what I look for is projects that are being built on other chains. So, Polygon's one, and one that I am a huge believer in going into next cycle is Avalanche, and that's because of their subnets. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of what subnets are, but basically it allows the chains, the games to develop their own chain that is unaffected by the gas prices on the main chain. So, as we know, Avalanche and Polygon are a lot cheaper to use than Ethereum. So I'm not saying it's bad if they're being built on Ethereum, but I want to know how they're going to offset the gas fees if they are being built on Ethereum, because if gas fees get outrageous again, there's no way a game can survive on Ethereum mainnet. So again, just something else to note when you're looking through is what chain are they being built on? Okay, so my top three tokens that I'm watching going into next cycle, and again, keyword watching here because they're still in development. I'm not necessarily invested in these yet, but the first one is going to be Aavegotchi. Now, Aavegotchi is a game that was built, and the team was heavily building last cycle, and they are still building currently. Now, they have these little ghosts that you can get, and you can deck out with stuff in their marketplace. So you have the marketplace, you have the game itself, which is a way to you can harvest land, and there's all these different realms. I'll link it down below if you guys want to check out the project. But again, it's called Aavegotchi. Now, they do have a token, but the game was out, or at least the Bazaar was out. So you could see the NFTs, you could trade them, you could do all these sorts of things. So the Bazaar, which is their marketplace, was out basically at the same time their token launched. Now, their token at first started on a bonding curve. And for those of you who don't know what a bonding curve is basically a way to control the supply of a token. Now, a lot of people gave that some crap because they want to see the token price go up. They want to have the ability for the token to go up. So while the bonding curve was great for the game because it keeps the currency or the coin at a pretty stable level. It would still go up and down in price, but it was pretty stable. Well, that was the thing. They did decide to remove that from my understanding. But the Ghost token has been out, and you can see that the token is, while it's down, it hasn't necessarily underperformed the market. Actually, it's performed pretty stinking well. And there's a huge community behind it, guys, because remember, it's the game. If there's not people playing the game, the project cannot survive. So you want to see people playing the game. So Aavegotchi, there's a huge community behind it. I've talked to lots of them. I've spent a lot of time in the Discord. The project has been going on now for, I want to say, going on 2 years, I believe, at least a year. They've been around for a long time. And you're starting to see the game roll out. The realms are happening. What they put on their roadmap is actually happening. And I don't see team members going out and buying cars and all this other crazy stuff. They've been head down building. So that is one reason I really like Aavegotchi. Now, I'm going to pay close attention because the game is supposed to evolve here, and the real game is going to be released here soon. So again, this is stuff that you want to see, but that's what I'm waiting for, is really the full game and all the components to be released. The next game on my list is Ascenders. Now, Ascenders is a new one. This is one that is coming to Avalanche. They're building a subnet on Avalanche. But the game from my understanding, the team, everyone has a lot of great experience. The token is not out yet, so you can't buy it yet. But in my eyes, this is a good thing because the game is not out yet. So they're working on the game. They're working on the token, which is going to come. I think the beta of the game and the token are supposed to release around the same time. So you'll be able to see that roll out. But I really like that they're building subnets. I really like the graphics, at least the images of what I've seen of the game. It looks like a well-built game. But again, that takes a lot of time. So these aren't necessarily projects I'm going out and buying today. Okay, these are projects that I'm looking at and watching going into next cycle. And once the game rolls out, then I might consider investing. But again, Ascenders is another one that I have on my list. They have a good, clear roadmap and white paper and a light paper. So you can read the shortened version of the white paper, which is called the light paper, to get the gist of the game. But then the white paper goes into detail into a lot of things, like great detail, which is what you want to see, right? You want to know exactly what their plan is, because why would you give them money if they don't have a plan, or if their plan is super vague, like we've seen with a couple of the tokens in the past? That to me shows me that there is no clear direction for the team, and that is something that concerns me, right? I want to know that there's a clear direction. A game isn't something you just wing. You know, you don't just wing a game development and just roll out some thing that has no cohesiveness amongst the team. To me, that shouts cash grab. So I want to see exactly what the team plans to do with the money that they receive, what their goals are with the game, the development that they're going to be doing, and their plans. I want to know these types of things, because with a game, it's not like something you can just pivot on, right? Development takes a long time, and so what you don't want to see is a team get partway through development and then have to change course and keep changing course based on whatever the new trend is. I want to know that they are putting their heads down and building what they said that they were going to build and have a clear direction. Now, the third one, and this is a punt for me, so it's not necessarily one that I'm a huge believer in, but it's a small market cap token that I've been keeping a close eye on, and that is GameSwap. Now, GameSwap is aiming to be the DEX of a lot of different games. So just like, Uniswap of tokens, where you go, you transact the tokens, what GameSwap is trying to build is a decentralized exchange like that, but it's for your in-game NFT items. So the things that you would buy in-game across any games that are partnered with GameSwap, you can go and trade them on that decentralized exchange or sell them or whatever you want to do. So it's like a marketplace that brings all these gaming projects together, and is a place that you'll be able to buy those NFTs or whatever it is that the game is allowing you to sell within GSwap or land or whatever it is. They do have a token currently. The token is called GSwap. And so it has rolled out. The tokenomics are great. I mean, there's a relatively low amount of tokens floating, and the max supply is extremely low as well. What I'm wanting to see with this project more is development. They've talked about it. They've bounced around on a couple chains. They're going to build part of it on Avalanche, but I know they were talking about pivoting to another chain. Now, I will say that is something that concerns me, right? Because every time they switch chains, they've got to develop new code to adapt to that chain. So, again, these are some things that you want to watch for and be careful of. Again, this one's sort of a punt for me. It's just one that, I might throw a few bucks at and see, what ends up happening of it, but nothing more than I can afford to lose. But, again, if they do build what they're talking about building, which again is the DEX basically of the metaverse, I could see that being a huge hit. I could see that being something that a lot of people like. I mean, think about that. That would be like being able to trade Fortnite skins with somebody on Call of Duty. And if you two both like, the mutual games there, you could trade them. You could do stuff with them. You could sell them outright for Ethereum or whatever the token is of the chain that they decide to launch on. And I can see huge demand for that, which is why they are a punt for me. But again, guys, I wanted to make this video for you guys so we could kind of go over what things you would like to see or what you want to see out of crypto gaming tokens. Again, it's stuff that I've touched on in the other videos, but I've more criticized. Tokenomics are one of the biggest things for me. Like, I want to make sure that the team isn't holding a whole lot of tokens. I want to know that the distribution looks healthy. So if the distribution doesn't look healthy, or it looks like the team and the seed investors are getting the majority of the tokens, that right there is something that I don't really care how good the game is. I might not be interested at all just because of that, because that is a way for them to suck value out of the token. And it doesn't matter how good the game is. If you're looking at it from an investment standpoint, if the tokenomics just don't make sense, then it's going to be really hard for the token price to go up without some sort of like manipulation or huge event or something like that that happens. So I wanted to cover this all with you guys. It's a video I've been meaning to put out. And there's a lot, the fact of the matter is there's a lot of details and things to look at. And so as we get nearer the like end development phases of these projects, I'll continue to put out videos that discuss what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for. But this is a good overview of what I generally look for when I'm thinking about investing in Metaverse tokens, and what I'm watching going into next cycle. So I hope that this is useful to you guys. If it is, and this is your first time to the channel, please like and subscribe. And with that being said, I will see you all next time.